Hi, my name's Katie and sometimes I quilt. I come from a family of particularly women who craft, did things, do things, that sort of thing. And so part of the joy of that is sometimes we inherit things. Now, in my case, spinning wheels I have inherited and works in progress. So I have two works in progress of my grandmother's. Well, actually this one that I'm going to show you today is technically a work in progress from my great-grandmother. And it is getting an airing because I mentioned last time I spoke to you that I had an issue with baskets staining my fabric, which then triggered a whole cleaning thing, which meant that I was opening boxes that I don't usually open boxes. And yeah, so I found some stuff. And most of the stuff I found comes under the heading of not quilting. So what I'm going to show you now is a work in progress that, and here's the photocopied pattern that I did, and I show you why. There's the photocopy of the pattern. The pattern itself is lovingly kept in an envelope with the daffodil patterns on the outside of the envelope, and inside we've got the original paper pattern. Now, it's out of a newspaper and it's quite fragile, which is why I photocopied it. And there's actually quite a few patterns here. It's quite interesting. I believe it's probably from, hold on, it's from the Weekly Times. Well, this one's from 1974, so the year after I was born. But I know that the lace that I'm going to show you is a lot older than that. So it's from a newspaper probably in about the 1940s. And we're talking some pretty fragile stuff here that I don't necessarily want to handle. So let's pop that away and I will show you what my grandmother handed me. So we have the thread. So what we're working with is obviously crochet cotton, and this ball here is the original ball of crochet cotton that she started with. It is labelled on the inside as being white, however this one is white, it's a newer one. I assume that it would bleach back to white if I ever decided to take that pathway. But this is where we're at. Now I have worked on this. It's been a few years since I have, but I turned this corner. But this crochet lace tablecloth edging was started by my great-grandmother when my grandmother was expecting my aunt. So far, 3 generations have crocheted on it, and it came to me. Nana gave it to me in one of her fits of, oh good, you're here, you can take this. So you can kind of see where different people have worked on it over the years, because the tension will be slightly different, and I assume that whoever finishes it, be it me or whoever I hand it to next will be able to deal with that issue. But I find this piece really interesting because I'm not sure if I actually want to finish it or if I want to make sure that there's a future somebody in the family that I can teach to do this and then hand the thing to for them to keep going. Here we go, we got Misha again this week. Early baby. But we've done sort of one side and two corners. Now, somewhere I have the linen to go in the middle of this. I don't know where that is. No, Mish, you can't have it. And I tend to keep it all in this little box here. That I have no idea what it was or what I did with it. But anyway, I feel like I should probably photocopy that pattern again because it's really fragile. But anyway, it's marked with daffodil patterns. And my grandmother's handwriting. And there it is. That's not the oldest work in progress I have. The oldest one I have, I will show one day. It's in a different spot. It's actually a tablecloth that my grandmother made for her box when she was about 15 or 16. And she describes it as something that she made before she knew what she was doing. And so it's cut work, and the cut work hasn't been done well. But it's always interesting to go back and look at our early work and see how things would be different and how you've evolved and grown as a maker. I don't know if I've got anything left from when I was sort of equivalent age to Nana. But yeah, that work in progress would be probably close on 90 years old. Anyway, but back to modern day. So in my cleaning, we found knot quilting stuff, and it's related to this. One of my bugbears, well, not a bugbear, one of my observations as somebody who's grown up in a family of crafters and inherits stuff, but also pushes stuff out the door to other people, is that we have our special stuff. So in my case, I've got a stash of fabric that is special and precious, and I'm holding on for it to it for the one day project. Nana did that with wool when she lost her eyesight and some of her crafting things needed to go away from her, or she was just going to smash her spinning wheel and that sort of thing. She started giving me things to bring home with me. And one of the things she gave me was this box, and inside it I knew was her precious yarn, her unspun wool. This is a woman who adored purple. So it was, lovely purple hand-dyed wool that was yet to be spun into yarn. Anyway, so I felt the need to practice my spinning, and it was here and there, and so I practiced with this stuff. And Nana had to have a moment of, it's not mine anymore. That's not what I would have done with it. However, I'm happy it's being used. With that in mind, can I recommend people use their precious stuff for what they want to use it for? You've obviously bought it with an idea in your head. So the knot wedding quilt or the Liberty stuff, that's my precious fabric. So I'm trying to use it. So what we needed to do is we need to use our stuff. Or one of two things happens. One, it ends up getting tossed out, because not everybody appreciates or understands. Or two, people can buy it at secondhand stores, at charity shops, at de-stash days that you'll find that a lot of organisations, deceased estates, everything will just get packaged up and sent off and then sold. And also related, if you're in the market or if you need or want to try out different crafts, sometimes de-stash days and sometimes places like your secondhand shops or your thrifting or whatever is a good place to find good quality stuff to practice with, because you don't always have to practice with rubbish. Anyway, with that in mind, I found a few things in my cleaning up. Now, I can embroider. I haven't done it in a while. But the idea of doing part of the Bayou tapestry appealed to me. So somebody has bought this, obviously, on their trip to Europe. It's still available on the website out of the shops in France. But I bought this at a de-stash day for $10. And so that's good. It's the kind of thing that I would buy. Have I started it? No. Have I opened it and looked inside it? Yes. What I am really tempted to start though is one of these ones here. So I ended up with two. And I'll see if I can find the front cover. So I've opened one of the packages and it's this. So it's probably from the same shop. I don't know. But I think this shop is actually closed down. But French embroidery again. There's the list of threads I need to buy. Again, it cost me $10. And I opened this one up the other day to have a look inside. But what it is a whole lot of pages to explain the embroidery. And then the embroidery itself is marked on white linen. So you can see maybe the markings there for all of the different flowers. Now, I'm not sure if the linen is going to stay white when I'm finished with it. It's a table runner. If anybody has had any success with dyeing these sorts of things, can you please let me know? I'm wondering if I should dye it before I embroider it to make sure that the embroidery thread itself doesn't discolour. Actually, that's probably a good idea. If you've done that, can you let me know? I'm just wondering what order to do things in. And then I'm also wondering if it's going to stay like this or if I'm going to do all the embroidery and then cut it up and do something else with all of the flowers. But the embroidered flowers look fabulous. Just not sure. I don't do a lot of really stark white things in my house. Mostly, as you can tell, we're more of an aged look here. I mean, even the cat. Anyway, but I've got two of those. So they're two different ones. And it's really quite interesting. So I could do different things with them. So that's that one there. And then there's another one that's got more like pansies and things on it. I don't know if you can see that. But the flowers are quite different on both of them. And I quite liked that. Obviously somebody had a lovely time in Europe and bought embroideries as something to remember them by, and then I get to buy them and maybe do something with them. What I have bought for myself though, and for this, living in Australia means needing to deal with international shipping costs. and also not being able to get the full range of everything. So then also dealing with international shipping costs. And one of the quilts that I've seen around for ages, it's a Blackbird Designs quilt called the Raven. And when it first came out, I loved it. I'm more of for the Edward Allan Poe aesthetic over the whole Halloween thing, because Halloween is really only coming into Australia in these last few years. But with thanks to a darling friend, I now have the booklet. And I might start it. So this wasn't widely available in Australia. It's like, this is the second, the first really huge applique quilt I did was a Blackbird Designs quilt. I know that in the floss tube community, they're known more for their embroidery and for the cross stitch, and they're stunning, and one day I will. But I absolutely adore the quilts. So really tempted to start. But in order to start something, I should try and finish something. I know. I've got a quilt that I could finish. I could just declare it done, bind it, and move on. Maybe we'll talk about that next week. We'll see what happens. Anyhow, this is what I do when I don't quilt, because I don't always quilt. I do mostly, but... Oh, and I also bought a drum carder. Yeah. That's a different video. Anyhow, I'm getting the battery light. I'm going to finish up. Hope you all have a good week.